Hopkins, say something interesting.
What's up? Mimi's here now. She's probably going to jump up.
All right, welcome to the Practical Pistol Show. My name's Ben. We're here to answer your shooting questions. On deck today, we got Mr. Matt Hopkins and Mimi.
Hi.
And Mr. Nick.
How's it going, everybody?
Awesome. I think, for them. Maybe not good for them. They're probably driving to work or doing some stupid shit like that, so they're probably just bored. That's what this is, Nick. This is a time filler for people. All right, let's get into the questions. I've been shooting USPSA for almost 2 years now. Like most shooters, I don't know if this is true actually, but like most shooters, I started my practical shooting adventure in the glorious street fighting sport known as IDPA.
You call it street fighting?
Yeah, I mean, isn't it though? The IDPA scoring system and ridiculous amount of useless rules forced me to be slow and accurate. As I transitioned, he put accurate in quotation marks. Like he's implying that he wasn't actually accurate. I don't know. As I transitioned into USPSA, I found it hard to step on the gas pedal, and because of it, my score suffered. Fast forward 2 years, I'm now an A-class limited and single stack shooter who does fairly well at local matches. I shoot in the Phoenix, Arizona area. We have a ton of high-level shooters. I feel like I have hit a wall of sorts. What were the key techniques that you feel need to be developed in order to step up from a low 80% A-class shooter to the ranks of legit GM? Do I need to focus more on shooting techniques or minimizing dead time? Wow. All right, Nick, what do you think about that?
Well, if you want to be a legit GM, and I guess by legit, we're going to say somebody who actually can, compete at a GM level in a pool of GMs. So you got to focus on everything. Like you can't have any major glaring holes in your game, and compete at that level. So you better be, pretty good at everything. If you want to make GM, if you want a GM card, then I would say, you're going to have to focus more on the shooting stuff just due to the fact that most, classifiers are, draw, shoot a few rounds, reload, shoot a few rounds, while pretty much standing in one spot. So if you want to get the card as quickly as possible, focus on the actual shooting and gun handling because you're going to have to do that anyways. But to actually compete at a high level, you got to be pretty good at everything.
So let's develop this into an action plan for him. Because be pretty good at everything. I mean, I don't really disagree, but what the fuck's he supposed to do with that?
So break your training down into sections. Work on certain skills. You have to rotate through, and you have to work on them all. So I don't, unless I missed part of his question, I don't know if he was asking about anything more specific than that.
Well, he asked about two things.
You need to focus
Shooting
on more shooting techniques. He says
minimizing dead time.
Yeah. So he says like either or, and I just like I said, it's not an either or, it's both. But somebody that's A class, the difference between somebody that's A class and GM is normally a little bit of everything. I mean, your upper A class is pretty good shooter. You don't get there by accident for the most part. So, I assume he's practicing and he just needs to take it all to the next level, I guess.
I highly doubt it's shooting technique because at A class you pretty much got it, I think. The gist ins and out of everything. Wouldn't you agree? It's just doing it faster.
You know what you have to do, but you still are probably gonna have to get better at it. But you know what you have to do, and you generally know kind of pretty much how to get there. You just have to focus and execute it, and practice enough to actually do it.
I could formulate this as you guys know, I train with a lot of people. So I see a lot of guys at this level, like the 80% might be A class, might be M class, whatever. But I see a lot of guys at this level, and this is where people get to through training, and then they kind of plateau. So when I see people like this, it's kind of like if I set up a field course that takes, I don't know, let's say it takes a top guy 20 seconds to shoot it. If you just shoot that thing over and over again, maybe for a few years, You guys shoots that sort of a thing until he can shoot it in like 22 or 23 seconds, pretty consistently. So just like he's a couple seconds behind the top guys, but really good. He's like he can draw pretty quick, shoot pretty quick, reload quick, whatever. So he's pretty good at everything. I see a lot of dudes like that, and let me form what Nick said was right. To form that into an action plan, like if you're this sort of a guy, if you can do a draw at 7 yards in like 1.2 seconds, pretty consistently, comfortably cold, then you know that the top guys can do that in under a second, then you got to be like, okay, it's got to be under a second cold. And you do that systematically with every little thing you're doing, because from this point forward, it's hard to make progress, because you've got to, like Nick said, systematically go through everything, break every little thing down, and where it's like you're going to see upper level guy can do this thing and you can do that thing pretty well, pretty close, whatever it is. You can reload almost as fast, shoot almost as fast splits, you're almost as accurate, whatever the test is. You're going to be almost there, but not quite. And then with a little bit of specific training on those those areas, you can improve that thing. And then over the course of a few more years of training, you kind of ramp up to get to being competitive with other GMs. Is that a fair way of putting it, Nick?
Yeah, and also I'd say another component. There's another component to competing. When he says legit GM, you got to be good at shooting matches too. So that beyond just technical shooting or movement skill, you got to have the experience to, manage the match correct way and know what it's going to take for you to perform optimally at it. And to do that, you're going to have to have match experience. So, it says he's shooting locally here as well. I don't know if he's, traveling and shooting higher level matches, but if you're not doing that, I'm going to say it's virtually impossible for you to compete at a GM level without doing that as well.
Yeah. All right. Hopkins, anything to add to that shit?
No, it was all really good and insightful.
You're an asshole.
Hopkins travels to matches. He shoots like 25 a year.
Nah, dude, I only shot like 12 this year, I think.
It was way better, though, wasn't it? 25 was stupid. Don't you think?
I don't know. I miss shooting some of the U.S. matches.
But 25?
25 is a crazy
I don't think
pace.
I ever shot 25. I think I shot maybe 20 a couple times.
I could have sworn you said 25 last year. I'm like, where? Like,
I don't
how
know.
many
How
weekends in a year are there? Damn. Yeah. Could have been. I don't know. I've shot. I actually shot a couple fewer this year, but I still didn't really feel like I was. Had a huge dead. I had usually have kind of a dead block of time, kind of at the beginning of the summer, but that's about it. I mean, even just shooting, 8 or 10 to me feels like I'm always kind of getting ready for the next match.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, it was back-to-back weekends when you do 20.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on. So I got a list of questions, like 5 questions, regarding IPSC matches. I think we've discussed that enough that it's kind of piqued some people's interest. So this is like logistical questions about what the matches are like and how the travel and that kind of shit works. So, Hopkins, shall we get started?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, Nick, if we say some shit that doesn't make sense.
I was about to say, I read these questions. I have no clue.
No, I mean, you don't know the
any of
answer,
them.
but
Yeah.
if we don't explain it to you
So,
well enough,
right.
then you can clue us in.
So,
Okay, so he wants to know, how is the process, visas, hotels, guns? Well, how is the process and cost of going to a continental match in Europe? Like he says, Eurasian Extreme as an example. What is that like compared to going to U.S. Nationals? Hopkins, what's the cost like?
The tickets are usually twice as much as and you got to fly there, obviously.
Yeah, we're not.
I
not gonna
have
walk.
not had to get a visa yet. I don't go to communist countries like Ben does.
Hey, man,
I'm just
take it easy. They're nice people there.
I'm sure they are, but I just have never been, so I don't know how that would work. Hotels are cheaper. Guns are a little problematic. You got to really know where you're going and look up all the rules before you go there.
Yes. So I'll go straight to the line. Visas fucking suck getting a visa. If you have to get that ahead of time, that really blows nuts. I think it was like $300 once I got one. I think each one I've got more than one. I think it's like $300 each.
Really?
So yeah. So that, well, because most countries have like you got to show up at their consulate or some nonsense like that. So there's visa services, and you pay the service. You like mail your passport out to the visa service, and they take care of it. But it's, I don't know. It's money. It's hassle. The further you plan ahead, the cheaper that's going to be. So you can get it done cheaper than I did, I think. Most people will not go to a country that requires a visa. Like the EU obviously doesn't require one. So, I mean, I imagine that's where most people will go, is either the EU or Canada. I can't think of I
don't think, do any of the Asian countries require it?
Well, I'm sure they do.
Probably North Korea.
Yeah, well, you're not going to go shoot a match in North Korea or China.
And their big match in like Indonesia or someplace.
I think that's
I'm
okay
not
to
sure
travel
that
to.
I'm not sure. I've never been to Indonesia. I'm not sure if they. I don't think they require a visa. Anyway, the hotel process. As a rule, I do not pre-book any hotel shit in the U.S. I just don't do it because we have so many. If you leave the U.S., I strongly recommend you find where you're staying beforehand. And a lot of times your gun permit is going to require, like if you go to Canada, they're going to want to know where you're staying with the gun. So you're going to have made arrangements already. So I would say pre-book the hotel. It tends to, I think you can spend as much or as little as you want in a lot of places. In Eastern